Are you ready to find the ultimate 125cc dirt bike that will completely transform your off-road riding experience this year? Stick around, because one of these machines is an absolute game changer, while another might just leave you stranded on the trail wishing you'd done your homework. Today we are counting down the top 5 125cc dirt bikes on the market, dissecting their real-world performance, suspension feel, engine character, and overall value. Number 5. Suzuki DR-Z125L. When I first threw a leg over this bike, I was immediately struck by its simplicity and old-school charm. Suzuki has kept this machine relatively unchanged for years, which means you are getting a proven, air-cooled 4-stroke engine that is virtually bulletproof. Riding it around flat, open fields, the power delivery is incredibly predictable, making it a decent introductory machine for someone who has never touched a clutch before. The low seat height also inspires a lot of confidence for smaller riders trying to find their footing. However, the moment I took the DR-Z125L off the beaten path and into some slightly technical trails, its age really started to show. The suspension setup is incredibly soft and lacks the modern adjustability you'd want when the trail gets rocky or rutted. I found myself bottoming out the front forks on drop-offs that wouldn't even faze a more updated machine. It feels bouncy and unsettled at higher speeds, which forces you to constantly back off the throttle just to keep the bike tracking straight and avoid getting bucked off. Another glaring issue I encountered during my testing was the starting mechanism. In an era where almost every trail bike comes standard with a convenient electric start, the DR-Z125L stubbornly clings to a kickstart-only design. While it usually fires up on the first or second kick when cold, trying to kickstart it on the side of a steep, muddy hill after a stall is incredibly frustrating. It completely breaks your momentum and reminds you that you are riding decades-old technology that hasn't adapted to modern rider expectations. Number 4. Yamaha TT-R125LE. Taking this bike out for a weekend spin was a noticeably different experience from the Suzuki. Yamaha has built a legendary reputation around the TT-R lineup, and the LE model brings some much-needed modern conveniences to the table, most notably the push-button electric start. Hitting that button and hearing the smooth, quiet 4-stroke engine purr to life instantly made my trail rides much more enjoyable, especially after stalling in an awkward, off-camber rock garden where kicking would have been a nightmare. The ergonomics of the TT-R125LE are quite comfortable, and out on flowing, hard-packed trails, the bike handles beautifully. It feels lightweight between the knees and responds well to subtle body movements. The power delivery is very linear, providing a gentle roll-on that won't rip your arms out of their sockets, which is exactly what a learning rider needs to build throttle control. I had a blast tossing it around tight, wooded single track, where raw horsepower matters less than nimble handling and balance. Despite these positive traits, I couldn't help but notice the engine's limitations once the trails opened up or pointed uphill. The carburetor can be a bit finicky, especially if you are changing elevations during your ride or riding on a colder morning. I experienced a few annoying bogs when snapping the throttle open quickly to clear a log. It just lacks that crisp, instantaneous throttle response that modern fuel-injected bikes deliver, leaving you waiting a split second for the power to actually arrive to the rear wheel. The suspension is another area where the TT-R125LE shows its recreational roots a bit too clearly. While the front forks offer a bit more travel and composure than the Suzuki, they still dive dramatically under heavy braking. 3. Honda CRF125F. Let me tell you, this bike was an absolute joy to test. The defining feature that separates the Honda from the previous two contenders is the brilliant inclusion of K-HIN electronic fuel injection. The moment I thumbed the starter, the bike idled perfectly, regardless of whether the engine was ice cold or if I was riding high up in the mountains. This single feature completely eliminates the headache of cleaning carburetors and dealing with chokes, making the ownership experience incredibly stress-free. Out on the trail, that fuel injection translates to beautifully crisp and responsive throttle control. When I needed to pop the front wheel over a sudden obstacle or power out of deep sand, the power was exactly where I expected it to be, without any hesitation or bogging. The engine still delivers the friendly, manageable four-stroke power that beginners love, but it feels so much more refined and precise. I found myself carrying much better momentum through tight corners simply because I could trust the throttle connection completely. The handling of the CRF 125F is signature Honda, balanced, intuitive, and incredibly stable. The twin-spar steel frame provides excellent rigidity, and I felt surprisingly confident pushing this bike through sweeping, flat corners. It doesn't do anything unpredictable, which is a massive confidence booster. When I inevitably made a mistake or picked a bad line over some wet roots, the bike's natural stability helped me recover without throwing me into the bushes. It truly feels like an extension of the rider. While it still utilizes a conventional telescopic fork and a single rear shock geared towards trail riding, the suspension valving feels slightly more progressive and planted than its direct competitors. Number 2. Yamaha YZ125X. This is where we transition from recreational play bikes to serious purpose-built off-road weapons. Testing the YZ25X was an absolute adrenaline rush. Unlike the four-strokes we just discussed, this is a high-performance two-stroke machine specifically tuned for cross-country and enduro riding. The moment you kick it over and hear that crisp, aggressive ring-ding-ding of the exhaust, you know you are in for a wildly exciting and fast-paced ride. What completely blew my mind during my test sessions was how Yamaha tuned the power valve and CDI timing specifically for the woods. Traditional 125cc motocross bikes require you to scream the engine at the absolute limit to find power, but the YZ125X offers a surprisingly usable bottom end and mid-range. I was able to lug it through tight, rocky ravines and over slippery tree roots with a level of traction I never expected from a small-bore two-stroke. When the trail opens up, you can fan the clutch and the bike explodes into a frantic, exhilarating top-end pull that leaves four strokes in the dust. The handling dynamics are nothing short of spectacular. Thanks to the ultra-lightweight aluminum frame, the YZ125X feels like an absolute featherweight beneath you. I could change directions with just a slight shift of my hips, darting through tightly spaced trees with millimeter precision. The lack of engine braking characteristic of a two-stroke meant I could carry blistering speeds into corners, relying entirely on the incredibly powerful Nissan brakes to scrub off speed at the very last second with zero fade. Then there is the suspension. Yamaha has equipped the YZ125X with their industry-leading KYB speed-sensitive system forks and a fully adjustable rear shock, specifically sprung and valved for off-road terrain. 1. Husqvarna TC 125. Getting the opportunity to test this bike was an eye-opening experience that redefined what I believed a 125cc dirt bike was capable of achieving. Husqvarna has poured their top-tier, race-winning technology into this machine, creating a two-stroke motocross bike that stands head and shoulders above anything else in its class. From the moment I rolled it off the stand, the premium build quality and striking aesthetics commanded total attention. The heart of the TC 125 is its revolutionary engine, which features throttle body fuel injection and an electronic power valve. Riding this bike is a sheer revelation. The traditional jetting issues, bogging, and temperature sensitivity of old-school two-strokes are completely eradicated. The power delivery is seamlessly smooth from the very bottom of the rev range all the way to the stratospheric top-end over-rev. I was absolutely blown away by how instantly the engine responded to every minute twist of the throttle, delivering explosive, intoxicating power that pulls harder and longer than any other 125 I have ever ridden. Complementing this incredible power plant is a chassis that feels like it is hardwired directly to your brain. The chromoly steel frame offers the perfect balance of torsional rigidity for high-speed stability and longitudinal flex for absorbing harsh impacts. Tossing the TC 125 into deep, rutted corners felt entirely effortless. The bike settles perfectly into the stroke and rails through turns with absolute precision. The incredibly light weight of the machine means you can throw it around in the air with total control correcting mistakes mid-flight with just a nudge of the handlebars.